Throughout NBA history, there have been many popular storylines for NBA fans to follow. In 2012, we witnessed Linsanity and saw the emergence of Jeremy Lin. In 2017, LeVar Ball and the Ball family started making headlines. And just last year, we witnessed one of the craziest NBA seasons ever, with the championship being decided in a bubble. But what's similar about all of these stories is that they're all pretty mainstream. Any NBA fan would be able to be reminded of these stories, and they could give a good enough account of what happened. However, there are a lot of NBA stories that either happened a long time ago or went under the radar in recent years that many people do not know about. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 NBA stories that you may not know about. Number 1, B.J. Tyler. B.J. Tyler was a 6'1" point guard that was taken with the 20th pick in the 1994 NBA draft by the Philadelphia 76ers. Tyler had a great 4-year career in college, and many people thought he was going to be a very impactful player in the league. During his senior season at Texas, Tyler averaged 22 points, 6 assists, 3 steals, and shot 37% from 3 on almost 10 attempts per game. He definitely had a very exciting and unique style of play at the time. Unfortunately, B.J. Tyler would only last 1 season in the NBA. After his rookie season, Tyler was selected by the Toronto Raptors in the 1995 expansion draft, but he never played a single game for them. Before the 1995-96 season, Tyler fell asleep while icing his ankle, which resulted in severe nerve damage. The nerve damage was so bad that it robbed Tyler of his elite speed and ultimately his career. After the incident, Tyler ended up retiring and he would never play in another NBA game again. The most heartbreaking part of the story is that BJ would have had plenty of opportunity to play since he was going to an expansion franchise with the Toronto Raptors. Who knows, if BJ Tyler never fell asleep with that ice pack on his ankle, maybe he would have developed into a star one day. Number 2, Elgin Baylor. Throughout his NBA career, Elgin Baylor was one of the deadliest scorers in the league, averaging 27 points per game for his career. However, what a lot of people don't know is that Elgin had a season in which he averaged 38.3 points per game, which would have put him in a tie for the 3rd greatest scoring season in NBA history. Unfortunately for Baylor, his points per game average did not qualify for the all-time single-season scoring charts because he only played in 48 games that season. I tried to figure out exactly how this minimum game requirement rule works, but this explanation from landofbasketball.com was the best that I could find. While it may seem trivial that Baylor missed a lot of games this season, it becomes serious when you realize why he was missing so many games. In the 1961-62 season, Elgin Baylor was a member of the Army Reserve and was stationed in Fort Lewis, Washington. Members of the Army Reserve were given weekend passes to take time off and do whatever they wanted with their free time. In Baylor's case, he would go play in NBA games and absolutely dominate the competition. When you consider the fact that Baylor didn't get much time to practice individually or with his team due to his obligations to the military, it makes the numbers that he put up that season all the more unbelievable. If he had been able to solely focus on basketball that season, I could see a world in which Elgin Baylor averaged between 45 to 50 points per game. Number 3, Denise Long and Lucy Harris. Back in 2013, Mark Cuban said that he was considering drafting Brittany Griner, a female college basketball player. During her 4 years at Baylor, Griner was a dominant force, averaging 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 blocks per game. Despite these amazing numbers, many people were shocked to hear that Cuban was interested in her because we have never seen a woman play in the NBA before. The 2013 WNBA draft came, and Brittany Griner was drafted number 1 overall by the Phoenix Mercury. Unfortunately for her, Griner did not hear her name called at the NBA draft that same year. However, Griner would not have made history if she had been selected because multiple women have already been drafted into the NBA. In the 1969 NBA draft, Denise Long was picked by the San Francisco Warriors but never ended up playing a game because the selection was voided. At the time, players were not allowed to be selected straight out of high school. On top of that, the league had never featured a female player before, which likely played a part in the pick being voided. Despite not playing for the Warriors, Denise paved the way for other female basketball players, as just 8 years later, Lucy Harris was drafted by the New Orleans Jazz in 1977. Even though she got picked, Harris declined the offer to try out for the Jazz as it was later revealed that she was pregnant at the time. Who knows, if Lucy wasn't pregnant at the time, maybe she could have become the first woman to play in the NBA. Regardless, getting drafted into the NBA is extremely difficult, and no matter what happens in someone's career, anyone should be applauded for even making it that far. Number 4, Ahmad Rashad. On April 11th, 2017, the Dallas Mavericks were wrapping up their regular season against the Denver Nuggets. With both teams being eliminated from playoff contention, this seemed like a pretty meaningless game. However, it was on this night that the Mavs decided to honor longtime Dallas Cowboys quarterback Tony Romo. Romo had just recently retired from football, and the Mavericks decided to honor him by letting him be a part of the team for this game. Romo got to warm up with the team, he got introduced along with the starters for that game, and he also got his own jersey as well as a seat on the Mavs bench for the night. Since Romo was dressed, many people wondered if he'd actually check into the game at some point. With 2 minutes left in the game and the Nuggets up by 13, Romo walked up to the scorer's table and it looked like he was actually going to check in. Sadly for the fans, it was just a joke, and Romo was quickly taken back to the bench by Mark Cuban. While Romo didn't get to play, a very similar situation occurred in 1990 when the person in question did get to play. During the 1990 preseason, the Philadelphia 76ers added Ahmad Rashad to their roster. Rashad played in the NFL from 1972 to 1982, but got into sports broadcasting after his NFL days were over. In 1990, Rashad was working on a TV show known as NBA Inside Stuff, and it is said that the league wanted him to play in a game in order to promote that show. As the game was coming to an end, he was subbed in and got a chance to play. The craziest part is that Rashad actually ended up getting a play drawn up for him. He came off the screen and knocked down a mid-range jumper. That was the only shot that he took, meaning that he had an 100% field goal percentage in his brief NBA career. Number 5, DJ Benga. DJ Benga is a former NBA player that played 7 years in the league, winning 2 championships with the LA Lakers. On the surface, DJ might seem like any other NBA journeyman, but when you hear his story, you'll realize that his life was anything but ordinary. In 1980, DJ was born in Kinshasa, Zaire, which is now known as the Democratic Republic of the Congo. As he was growing up, DJ's father worked in the Congolese government. However, once his father's term ended, the new regime sought out and imprisoned anyone that worked for the previous leader. As a result of their family ties to his father, DJ and his family were to be captured as well. Once he and his family were found, they were imprisoned with execution dates being set for them. However, Benga's father was able to negotiate on their behalf, essentially sacrificing himself so that his family could be free. After they were released, DJ and his family were able to escape to Belgium, where they lived in a refugee center. When DJ got to Belgium, he was 19 and he had never played basketball in his life. But after discovering the sport, he started playing in the streets of Belgium, where he was discovered by Willy Stevenier, a Belgian basketball legend. While DJ's skills were very, very raw, he was nearly 7 feet tall with athletic gifts, meaning that the potential was definitely there. After being discovered, DJ started working on his game, and by the time he was 20, he got an offer to play professionally in Belgium. DJ played pro basketball in Belgium for 3 years, where he showed lots of potential on the defensive end. By 2004, NBA teams were starting to show interest in DJ, and it was in this year that his NBA dreams came true, as he received a contract offer from the Dallas Mavericks, playing with them until 2007. After that, he went on to have a brief stint with the Warriors, and then eventually signed with the LA Lakers, where he played for 2.5 years, winning 2 championships in the process. After winning his second championship, DJ signed a 1-year deal with the New Orleans Hornets, which would turn out to be his last season in the NBA. Following that 1 season with the Hornets, DJ played 2 more years of professional basketball, 1 in China and 1 in the Philippines, before he eventually called it a career. While he was never a star in the NBA, DJ was still able to make millions of dollars playing basketball, which is incredible considering he was on the brink of death at just 19 years of age. I hope you guys learned something new from this video. I did have prior knowledge about there being women drafted by NBA teams, but the other stories really surprised me when I found out about them. Let me know down in the comments about any other NBA stories that I didn't mention in this video. There's a lot more that I wanted to mention, but I just didn't want the video to be too long, so maybe I'll have to make a part 2 at some point in the future. Anyways, with all of that being said, I'm out.